till now, that's the exception. You know, you have some countries that are, you know, they have some residential system. We frankly imported our residential system from Oxford and Cambridge, but there it was for the aristocracy. Here it became widespread and allowed middle class, and then access after that allowed the people to access education, and you know, the American dream of moving up was based on that. So now we have a success story. What's happening in the world? The world is envious in many ways, and the world is emulating us. The system is open and international in two ways. Not only do we have international open, you know, we get the brains wherever we find them. Whether they're in Boston, in New York, in Los Angeles, or in China. We go after them. But also the students come. You know, here in our university, 10% of our undergrads, 11% actually, are international. You know, at the graduate level, in some disciplines, nationwide, 43% of the students in science and engineering, on average, are international. So we have a great success story. It's very performing. You can quantify the results in many ways, from intellectual property to you know, what's happening in the Silicon Valley or in Route 128. But then let's look at the world. What do we see now? We see an emergence of the middle class. India, China, Latin America, all over. So what's happening with this middle class? They want education. They want the best education. So so the demand is enormous. However, we have an issue. All the university systems in the world will not satisfy the demand. Why? Because suddenly you see we have this emergence of the middle class. They can go to school, they want to go to school, and frankly they have the means to pay. So what are we seeing? First, the demand from international students is increasing. And you know, American higher education is open to the students. So you have many universities that on average in research universities around 10% of the student body is international. But the demand is such that frankly, if American research universities want to increase it to 20, 30, 40, they can do that. What's also happening is that in general the Anglo-Saxon world, Australia, England, is opening its doors also. They're competing with us on international students. But we are seeing a new phenomenon, very recent phenomenon, you know, relatively 10 years, as a widespread phenomenon. We are seeing universities in England, in the United States, in Australia, opening campuses overseas. Keep that in mind. The demand is enormous. They're opening campuses overseas. It has pluses, it has minuses, it has challenges. We can discuss. And I hope that if you're interested during the discussion, please feel free to raise any question. But first, enormous demand. How is the demand going to be met? New campuses beyond the fact that international students are traveling overseas to get their education. And it's really, this is essentially fueled. The new campuses are really being established mostly by the Anglo-Saxon world and by us meaning the American system. But, you know, you have the international governments, the sovereign governments, and they're saying, wait a second, let's look at the American success story. What allowed America to really be an innovative economy? All these universities. So we want to do the same. So we are seeing an enormous investment in Asia, in higher education. They're putting billions of dollars. You may be surprised to learn that it's not only Asia. It's happening even in the old world, which is younger than Asia, namely in France, in Europe. President Sarkozy announced 2-3 weeks ago that that his government is going to invest 35 billion euros with a B, over $50 billion in higher education. Enormous. So we are in this situation where the competition is fierce, and if you look at South Korea, Japan, and China, they are now claiming 26 of the top spots in higher education worldwide. We claim 58 universities as being in the top spots. We lost actually 4 spots recently. And between 2008 and 2009, we lost 4 spots. What's happening? It's very simple. Competition is fierce. Governments are investing a lot of money. And it's only the beginning. India is still looking at ways to invest. In Latin America, we didn't even start looking at what they have. And Brazil is a booming economy. In this environment, what can we do in higher education? And more specifically, let's look at the US higher education system. I want to start by, I gave you a kind of environmental scan of where we are, a very brief environmental scan. Let me introduce a distinction between international and global. And this distinction was introduced to me by the president of Toshiba in Los Angeles, who's an alumnus, and he told me that Toshiba is an international company and not a global company. I said, that's an interesting distinction. What do you mean by that? He said, all the decisions are made still at the headquarters in Tokyo. All the major decisions for Toshiba are made in Tokyo. A global system will allow the various satellites or the various endeavors to have their own decision-making, their own system, their own approach, their own whatever philosophy, their own strategy. I just described very briefly the fact that universities are becoming more international by investing in new campuses overseas. The question, if this distinction is real, are we creating international systems of higher education, or are we in global systems of higher education, or are we creating global systems of higher education? My assertion today is that there is no global university in the world. All the endeavors you see are international endeavors, and let me explain. Essentially, when we in higher education, in the American higher education system, and the same is true of Australia or England, we start a campus overseas, essentially we duplicate exactly what we have here, and we don't take any consideration, very little consideration, of the local interests, needs, or even more so, how we can look at it from a point of view that could add to our own main campus. Let me give you an example. Some years ago when I started here, the dean of the business school approached me and said, in the Gulf, in the Middle East, there is a university that wants to partner with us. And I asked him, Tom, why would it be of interest to us? And what's the value added for our students? And he came back with a great answer. He said, it's a business school that wants to partner with us, and what we want to do here is create a program about Western entrepreneurship and Muslim entrepreneurship. That's a value added for the students, because then they can be looking at another dimension. Similarly, I'm going to talk in research how we can move from an international system to a global system. And let me give you an example when I get to that. But I want you to keep in mind that what is being done on an international level by American universities is dangerous in general, because it's backfiring in some places. A very distinguished university, Hopkins, was asked to leave Singapore. In other places, we are seeing that people are not happy with the education that is being delivered by American universities. Is going to affect and impact our brand. We're not even sending our best faculty there. So it's a situation where the demand is enormous, the opportunities are enormous, and frankly, there is a gold rush there. And be careful, stay tuned. It's going to backfire unless we think about it in a way that is more strategic and that is more empathetic to the environment we're in, whether it's Southeast Asia or Latin America or Africa or wherever. Now let's look at our own situation here. Let's look at Boston. Let's look at Northeastern. Boston is an international university. In an international city, not university. I'm not taking over Boston. The mayor is a close friend, so I'm not going to do that. Boston is an international city, and it's an open city. In many ways, you know, it's a vibrant environment because of the EDs, because of the Mets, because of the biotechs. We are hubs. We are a hub. A hub for higher education, a hub for medical delivery, a hub for biotechnology, finance, etc. So we're well positioned in this environment, and the place is attracting immigrants too. And immigrants are really our great ambassadors. You know, you talk about Haiti, and we have a vibrant Haitian community, and actually we are raising also funds, Barry, for the Haitian community in Haiti. So Boston is well positioned from this perspective. Namely, it already has a great platform. And if you think about China, the door, you know, China opened itself to the door, to the world by using Chinese overseas in the 80s and before that. And in many ways, we are well positioned to open ourselves to the whole world. Now let me take you to the level of my own institution. I mentioned that we don't have a global system of higher education. Our ambition is really to establish a global university. What do we mean by global university? I mean two things. What does it mean to have a global education? And what does it mean to have global knowledge production or research? Because those are the two pillars of what research universities do, and those are the two pillars of what we do. First, here we have a system called co-op, an experiential education. So what we have done over the last 3 years, and we are doing that, and we have very ambitious plans to even double that, we took co-op in a global way. So our students are all over the world. We are in co-op and experiential education allows our students not to practice academic tourism, but to be really in the environment, in the world they are in. And we have now students doing co-op and experiential education in 52 countries all over the world. That's a great basis for us. Because now when we start establishing forays in different countries, we already have alums, students who are going to work with us. And let me tell you the proposal that we have in mind for a global campus. Essentially, when you look at this beautiful campus here, any campus is too confining. The world does not stop at a campus. So imagine a situation when you come here, You can spend 2 years launching yourself here studying at Northeastern, then you can spend 1 year in Asia, Singapore, Shanghai, wherever it is, in one of our campuses, then go to Latin America, go to Africa, wherever it is. And imagine a situation where other students will be starting in Asia, doing the same on our campuses, and then moving to another country, then moving here. But that's not enough. This rotation is not enough, because the whole idea is every time to provide a value added in terms of education. Namely, what can we do in Shanghai that we cannot do here, and vice versa. And that's a big challenge and a big opportunity. Do I have the answers? No. Do my colleagues have answers? Yes. And so you see, I gave you already an example of, when you start building another operation in another country at an educational level, you say, for instance, how can I take advantage of Southeast Asia if I am in Singapore? What kind of education or curriculum can we build that we cannot build here? And vice versa. Now, in terms of research, it's trickier. Universities have not been good at all in terms of global research. When I say that, I look at my colleagues, and I'm sure they must be upset now, because every faculty colleague, including myself, we have research partnerships and scholarship partnerships all over the world. In fact, I hope that at some point, my colleague Barry Bluestone is going to tell you about the world-class cities, because that's a real global research opportunity. But the international research partnerships are really mostly individual, or even when they involve groups, it's the same. What we are trying to do is establish a different situation. And once again, we have to look at the world and say, who established a productive knowledge creation system? Can you tell me who? We have examples around us constantly. Industry. Let me give you an example. Microsoft, at some point, decided to establish a campus in Beijing. Their idea was, we are targeting Beijing, we are targeting China. Therefore, we are going to have, it's a research campus. We train people there, but the products, the software they're going to generate will be there for China. After around 16 months, the products started coming out, and indeed they were for China and Asia. Way before that, they expected that it will take 3 years. They were able to, the researchers there, they were able to do it in 16 months. However, more importantly, after around 24 to 36 months, the researchers there surprised Microsoft, because they started creating products for the whole world. Imagine, and with Toshiba, it would have been very difficult. They created a global system. Our Defense Department actually is very much ahead. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the nuclear scientists were enlisted by us. We paid them. And they became part of a research network here. So what did we do? What are we doing now? We were invited by the Minister of Research and Technology, for instance, in Greece, to establish a research platform in Greece. They gave us a research platform, a research campus. And for us, the first question, once you want to build a global environment in terms of research or in terms of education, is what's the value added for the country and what's the value added for us? So I asked the Minister of Research who came here in technology, why do you want us to be there? He said, you have leadership in nanotechnology, homeland security, sensing, imaging, drug delivery, drug discovery. We want to take advantage of that. I understood. And he said, you in the United States have a system of intellectual property that we don't have. In Greece, if you're a faculty and you make a discovery, who takes the intellectual property? The state, because all universities are state universities. Whereas here, in the United States, a share goes to the faculty and a share goes to the university. So if our faculty there work with you in Greece, then they take advantage of that. That was good. He explained to me exactly what he wanted, what he could expect from us. Then we started with our colleagues looking at what's in it for us. Two things. One is clearly the fact that we have access to a larger cadre of researchers. You know, we have researchers, then, you know, their researchers will work with our researchers, that's obvious. But second, here, research in the United States gets funding. We get funding from the National Science Foundation, National Institute of Health, Department of Defense, etc., Department of Energy. If I go there, if we establish a campus there, what happens? We start having access to the European Science Foundation research. So you see, we are looking at it from a point of view of what will be the value added, and in addition, we introduce the notion of tech transfer. So our researchers, with their researchers, established two companies, two fuel cells companies, based on the research that was done, one over there and one here. Now, let me, I outlined a little bit. What I have done here very briefly is outline the fact that no university is global in the world. And we have some attempts. I frankly shared with you some of the attempts that we're doing. And in many ways, we're pioneers in this domain. Whether you look at it in terms of education, or whether you look at it in terms of research. However, we face real challenges. And I'm going to be very honest and very candid with you. And here, I'm not talking about Northeastern. I'm talking about university presidents, administration, management. And I talk to, you know, my colleagues, presidents in the area constantly. We talk to each other. We even have dinners where, you know, off the record, where we talk about various issues. The dilemma that we're facing, given the demand, the global demand, is that now other countries are giving millions and millions of dollars to American universities to establish themselves overseas. Here, we have, in New England, various attempts that you read about by various mayors, not our mayor. Our mayor here is really, you know, a great leader from this perspective because he understands the dilemma we're facing in higher education. But almost on a weekly basis, you have a mayor in New England saying, let's tax them. So what is happening? Let's tax them. Let's make them pay taxes. Let's let them pay direct taxes. The mayor of Pittsburgh attempted to do that. Big uproar, he was defeated, but you know, the mayor of Providence started that. Every other week you have a mayor or a politician doing that. So now universities are saying, gee, I have Singapore, I have Shanghai, I have Latin America, and they're after us. And I'm not talking about Northeastern only. And they want us to be there. They give us millions and millions. And on the other hand, we have some local politicians, once again, not our mayor, saying we have to tax them. So, what's happening? A real challenge that we face. Second real challenge. I just mentioned to you that President Sarkozy is going to invest $35 billion in higher education and culture and technology. So it's over $50 billion. And here, what do we have? We're talking about taxing that. Asia, China is doing the same. They're investing billions. You have a reverse brain drain happening. You read about it. It's not systematic yet, but it's real. So here we are. The rest of the world is copying our success story And now we are facing many challenges because people want to question it by reducing it, by minimizing it. Because once you start taxing this system and you are competing at a global level, and the other sovereign governments are investing billions and billions, guess who's going to win in the long run? Not us. We can't afford this. The future of the nation is really dependent on an innovative economy. No new discovery, whether it's done in universities or in various companies, starts without universities. We are the engine. And we have to be aware that we cannot afford this. I wrote an op-ed in the Huffington Post about one aspect, about the comparison between two leaders, the mayor of Pittsburgh and President Sarkozy. I'll share it with you. But you see, the challenges are real, but the opportunities are real. We have the best university system in the world. Let's nurture it.